Are you thinking enough about how much you repurpose your content? I can almost guarantee you that you're not doing enough. And this is the untapped resource when it comes to generative AI. It's this ability for you as a podcaster and or YouTube video creator, and you should be both, to reuse your content to get extra mileage and to meet more people where they're at. And I have to admit that I podcasted for years before I thought to myself, well, hey, what if I put my podcast episodes on YouTube? What a concept, right? Now with a podcast, you place your audio plus text posts on a blog, which you then syndicate to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, etc. And you can and you should then be cycling those recordings, those videos ideally, and also ideally conversations with you and other expert thought leaders, placing them as full-length videos. But does everyone watch a 20-minute or a 2-hour-long video? No. And that means that you should also run your videos through a tool such as Opus or Veed to then create shorts. But then I thought to myself, well, hey, there's also this ability on YouTube to create posts to then send people back to your older videos. And then I thought to myself, well, hey, I can make tweets, I can make LinkedIn posts, I can post these reels on Instagram and TikTok. And then once I became more LinkedIn savvy, I realized that, okay, say I go on LinkedIn, right? Now, what are people posting? Well, here's, for example, immediately after I finish a podcast interview, before the episode's even named, live, produced, anything, I run it through ChatGPT and I say, well, give me some highlights for our conversation. And then I grab a 1-minute reel directly from Riverside, which is what I use to record. And I just say, hey, let's drop this in. Let's tag the person. Let's get them to reshare it. And then when the post goes live in maybe a week or two, then we get mileage again, right? And then when we post the reels on LinkedIn, we get mileage again. And then I realized when I was scrolling through my feed that sure, people like reshare and people post carousels and things like that, but somewhere in here, people also make article posts. So if I look at my own profile, and let's just imagine that someone is sizing up Mr. Robert Plank. And you on LinkedIn or your social platform of choice, someone is probably sizing you up and say, hey, does this person know what they're talking about? And if the last post you have is on 8 months ago, then you don't know what you're talking about, right? You're not consistent. You're not present. If you don't have a profile picture, if you don't have a bio, if all your bio isn't filled in, then that's a little bit of a problem. So you look at this activity, right? And we look at show all posts. And on LinkedIn, you have posts and there's the comments you make, but there's also like videos. And then there's this thing that says articles. And these are basically blog posts. And you might be thinking, well, who has time? With all the things going on, I need to email my list. I need to post on all these platforms. Well, if you have a podcast, you have an abundance of content. And if you know how to just paste it into ChatGPT and give it these prompts, then you can create as many blog posts as you want, and they'll all be good because the original material was good. And then as far as like condensing it down or reshaping, reformatting for this other purpose, it is still good because you kind of look at the process and you kind of refine what comes back. So you can do this on LinkedIn. A lot of people don't know. You can make a post here, right? And there's a limited length of what you can put on here. It's longer than a tweet, but it's like a Facebook post. But you can also say write article. And this is where you can add an image and a title, and you can just make like a big, long, 5-page long blog post, and that's great. But then I started noticing on my feed that people had these things called newsletters, and there was like a button that said like, hey, you can subscribe to this person's newsletter. So it's different than following the person's post, which might be a mix. And it's different from these LinkedIn articles, which are like longer posts. This is like something that is expected to be recurring. And again, oh, well, I don't know if I can commit to a weekly or a monthly newsletter. If you podcast, you have an abundance of content, especially if you go back to that stuff that went out 6 months, 2 years ago that needs new life. Well, it can and should be used in a LinkedIn newsletter. And here comes the next problem. Okay, so I have all this content, and I guess if I had to, I could post a LinkedIn newsletter, but how do I just get all that created? Well, the answer is prompt chains. Because ChatGPT is not sentient, which means that if you give it all this podcast transcript, you say, we'll make it a blog post, as much as you try to like fight it, it will only be a certain length, and it kind of won't be very good because it's just doing its best, right? ChatGPT, generative AI, is based on probabilities, right? You tell generative AI peanut butter and blank, and they say, well, there's like a 70% chance you'll say jelly after peanut butter, right? Peanut butter and jelly. And there's a lesser chance you'll say peanut butter and bread or something like that. So it's doing its best. And so I discovered from just using, and I'm always trying to get away from this dang just massive text file of all my favorite prompts. I keep falling back into this. And the thing of it is that if you give it this big, long instructions, the output won't be as good as if you say to it, here's a transcript of a podcast. I know that it's small text, but just let me explain. Here's a transcript of a podcast. Based on it, research keywords. Based on that, give me a title. Based on that, give me an outline. Based on that, give me a meta description. Based on that, give me an introduction. First section, second section, third section, fourth and fifth, conclusion, link suggestions, image suggestions, and then give me a thumbnail graphic, give me a LinkedIn post. If you give it all this at once, it just won't be very good. But if you give it this in separate little instructions, it will take a lot longer. It'll take 3 minutes instead of 30 seconds. But the end result will be much lengthier, much more detailed. It'll be that much closer to passing as human. And it just will be more thought through and more structured the way that you want it to be. So prompt chains just means that here's this prompt, and just if you've used ChatGPT at all, you go back and forth with it, right? You have a conversation with it. But if you were to paste in a podcast transcript, wait for the response, paste in this, wait for the response, it would take forever. It would be your full-time job. It would take you at least an hour just to make one of these blog posts. So what if you could just say, hey, here is these 10, 15 instructions? Well, you can, and the answer is with this Chrome plugin. Well, I'll show that in a moment. There's a Chrome plugin called ChatGPTQ. ChatGPTQ. And here it is. So you can just search it, add it to your Chrome world, and it will add this button on right here. And then you can click on this add prompts in bulk, and you can just give it all these different prompts to your heart's content, separated by a tilde, a little swirly, and you can find that by holding down Shift on your keyboard and then hitting the button to the left of the one. It's like a little, you almost never use it, right? But that's the separator, and this way you can say prompt 1, prompt 2, prompt 3, and that's what we have done here. We've said here are all these different prompts. And so what I did was I went to LinkedIn. Where's the window for that? Here's ChatGPTQ. Did we close it? Maybe we did. So we went to linkedin.com, and it's a little strange to find this because, yes, you can write an article, but to do this recurring commitment that we're talking about, you go to write an article, in which we said an article is just kind of a standalone long form post. And you go to this top right here and you say manage, and then you say create newsletter. And I don't think this will work if I click it because I just created a newsletter 2 days ago. But here's what happened is I made this newsletter called Marketer of the Day. And so if I look at my own profile, and again, someone's sizing you up on LinkedIn, they scroll, they see your posts, and here's this Marketer of the Day newsletter. So I named it after my podcast because you have a podcast, you know that you'll be making another post very soon, right? And now the vision of this podcast after 12 years has finally come to fruition because it's called Marketer of the Day. And I have not in a long time actually published 5 days a week, right? I have over 1,200 episodes, but I have never in my life actually put out 365 podcast episodes per year. But that's okay because we have so much content that when I first realized I could publish my podcast on YouTube, it took me 3 years of posting every single day to get caught up. And if you have a podcast, even if you only have 10 episodes, 100 episodes, well, what if you posted every week until you got caught up? And so I think yesterday, I clicked on that create newsletter button, and I apologize I can't see it, but it asks you only a few things. It asks you what's the name of your newsletter, what's the one line, one sentence description of your newsletter, and what's a graphic for your newsletter, and then what's your first post. And so just by doing that, it told all of my 10,000 followers, and now I have 349 subscribers starting from 0 yesterday without even trying. And so you can click on this Marketer of the Day newsletter. And so I think it showed this to all of my followers, and they can just one click follow. And I have since published 2, I guess they call them editions. So it's kind of like that posting an article where it's just kind of out there and free floating versus an edition where it almost looks the same. As far as the title and everything, it's just expected to be part of the regularity. And so when I created this newsletter, there was also a section. Maybe if I edit the newsletter, I can show you what you see when you create one. Marketer of the Day, click on edit. Aha. So yes, this is what appears when you go to create a new newsletter. What's the title? What's the description? And then how often will you publish? And I said, well, hey, it's Marketer of the Day, not of the week, so this is a daily newsletter. And then check this out. Your subscribers will receive a push notification and an email. So isn't that amazing? They get a pop-up on their phone, plus they get a email as well. And I suppose you can change it, but what got me really excited was I can somewhere see who subscribed to the newsletter. I can see there's new subscribers, see all, and I immediately thought to myself, well, hey, this lady was a guest, this guy was a guest, and I thought to myself, if I subscribed to someone's newsletter on LinkedIn and then they started talking about me, I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so engaged. I want to share this. So I immediately look through and I know that these names don't mean much to you, but 1 out of every 8 to 10 is someone who was on my podcast. And otherwise, it's also interesting that they're now paying attention, right? These people are getting a push notification. And so here's how, so first of all, that's how you create the newsletter, right? And then when it comes time to post today's newsletter, you click on Write Article, and then we say Manage, and we will make it part of, we will make it part, yeah, here we go. My mistake. Okay, so let me go back. We're on LinkedIn, click on Write Article, and you fill in the graphic, title, and all that. But then on the left here, by default, it might say that you're just posting an individual article with no recurring commitment, or here's where you can post it as a business page, but also here's where you can post it as part of your newsletter. And this is what we want, right? This is what gives people the email and the push notifications. So imagine the engagement if these people were getting like a push notification from you every day. That would be amazing. And we can do that with ChatGPT, specifically with the ChatGPTQ, which is Queuee, Chrome plugin, to use these prompt chains. And then if this is something that you want me and my team to do for you on a regular basis, dfypodcast.com. I know that everyone's podcast needs are different, but $497 a month at the time of recording this video, and we'll just do all the pieces of your podcast that you need to do on a recurring basis for your promotion. And I know that not everyone wants or needs a LinkedIn newsletter, but if this is something that excites you like it excited me, if you have 100 episodes so far, or you plan on recording 100 interviews this coming year, and you say, hey, I'd love to have 100 podcast episodes, 100 blog posts, 100 LinkedIn newsletter articles, 100 times 3 reels, 100 graphics, 100 people that are basically just always promoting you, dfypodcast.com. Because so the typical podcast guesting experience is this. Someone has to work and work and work just to get on one podcast. When they finally show up, the host is kind of tired and boring and like asks the same questions. And then you never even know when it goes live. You never hear from the person again. And then maybe you get a link back or a trickle of traffic versus what you should be doing as a podcast host, which is you show up, you have a lot of fun. The episode goes live within like a few days or weeks, but like relatively soon. And then once it goes live, you give your guest all these tools, materials they can use to promote. Reels, graphics, copy and pastes, email promotion, social media copy. And that's where even more podcasters stop. But what you should be doing is also putting your podcast on YouTube and all these platforms and tagging your guests there. And also following up and saying, hey, did you comment? Did you post? Did you reshare? And that's where even more podcasters stop. But then now, months later, there are more ways that you can promote someone without being repetitive, such as this technique we're about to show you. So without further ado, or any ado at all, we have this LinkedIn newsletter, right? And we said, I want to go and write a new article, and I'll make sure it's posting as a newsletter, but oh no, now I need to write it. How do I do it? ChatGPTQ to the rescue. So what we do is close down a lot of this stuff. Let's just start a new chat window, right? And what we do here, and I'm not sure if I'll give this away. I might make a freebie, a free report about it, because this is just too good. So here's what I do. But you can still understand the process here. This is a transcript of a podcast. I want you to carefully and thoroughly read and understand. So we'll put this in a new ChatGPT window and a couple of shift enters. And then I also highly recommend that you transcript every single episode of your podcast. Yes, every single one. In this day and age with AI, it's good enough where there is a little bit of a cost, but Otter, I believe, is $30 per month for 10 hours of transcription. So basically almost as much as you can throw at it. And so I have this huge library of these different podcast transcripts. And if we open up one of them, it is a little bit of a mess, right? There is information hidden in here, but it's not easily read, like Ignite Press, hybrid publish. I guess you can kind of get your answer, but it's very inconvenient, right? It's very unpolished. This is not a social media post, but you paste this into ChatGPT, you make your tweets, you make your graphics. And so what we do here is, let me look at what I did as far as the schedule, because we're publishing daily. I need to get ahead of the calendar, right? I need to get these posts created ahead of time. So we have this new Google document called newsletters, And we said on January 8th, we had Chuck Hooper, and January 9th, we have Tim Jensen. And so what we'll do is, how do I do this without repeating my work? Well, let me just go and see where I left off. So I was building these up, and my next post here is January 16th, Patrick Sanahan. So what we do is we go find Patrick Sanahan in our big old list. Here we go, Patrick Sanahan. We double click, and same idea is here is all this. And even like the transcript isn't perfect, but somehow ChatGPT makes it right. So what we do is we right click, select all, right click and copy, and we put all this into ChatGPT. And can we paste? And it should just tell us okay, because we said here's a big long transcript. If you understand it, say okay. And then what this is are all of these, there's like 10, 12 prompts in here, right? And they're separated by these tildes. And I already walked you through these, right? Make the keywords, make the titles, make all this stuff. And it ends up being a much more well thought through than just doing it in one shot. So we added this ChatGPTQ Chrome extension. We clicked on a button, and we click on the, what we do is you click on this like puzzle piece, and then there's a thumbtack, which adds it here so you can easily get to it. And on this pop-up here, it used to say like upgrade to Pro for like $12. And so I upgraded to Pro to unlock this button here. This is the only thing I care about, is add prompts in bulk. So we click on this, and then we go and we paste in all this stuff. And then we cue the prompts. And then we just let it go and let it do its thing. And you don't need to read this as it comes in, but it is interesting, right? It says, well, time management strategies for procrastinators, productivity tips. And I like this because I used to just say, here's the transcript, make a blog post. But instead it's thinking through like the keywords that we want to target. And this is huge with podcasting and with content creation in general, right? You want to think your title especially through, right? You want to have a title that includes our guest name, their company name, but even more importantly, the keywords that they would like to capture, to catch, right? Someone is searching for how to stop procrastinating, how to beat procrastination, time management. Someone's searching these. So we want to say, based on all this mountain of text, what are the keywords that make sense? And then when we make the blog post, we keep those keywords in mind. That way we capture people actually looking for this. And so I won't make you sit through every step, but we have time management strategies for procrastinators. Then we say make the outline. And so it's giving us like some hooks, promise, section 1, what procrastination is, breaking the cycle, temptation bundling, rewards work, routines, conclusion, and then based on that outline, then it expands the introduction. Then it expands the next section, and it's weird that it's not mentioning, oh, here's Pat, and usually it corrects the last name, but this is where the human intervention is important. And it's making all these pieces. And so I believe somewhere this shows us like how many steps are left, but you just let this run. You don't pay too much attention, and you know what? I guess we'll just do a search here in place once this comes back. So we'll let this crank out the sections, and then the final we're already at the conclusion. We're almost done. And then the final prompt in the chain tells us from all these pieces, give it to us in one place. That way we don't have to like copy. We just have it all in one place. And I also have it generate a text to put in Canva because we need that graphic. And I also have it create a LinkedIn post. And it also gives us some extra ideas that like we don't really use that much, but it helps us, right? How to manage your time like a pro, power of small habits. Like we get even more ideas for future content. Image suggestions. And what I used to do, which maybe I need to start doing again, is I usually paste the transcript plus the guest bio, and that fixes the problem, right? Because we like the auto transcripts gave us that, but then what I also do is I have all these other text files, and where's Pat Sanahan in this list? I already forgot what number it was. Here's this. We have this other text file here that has like his LinkedIn bio and the bio he gave me in order to fix his last name. So let's try this. We'll say this is background information and bio about the guest. Please use this to understand the context about their expertise and uniqueness. Let's see. Be sure to prioritize the spelling of their name, first and last, and company name based on this, since the full podcast transcript may have typos. And then if you have fully digested this guess bio, respond only with okay. All right, so it is a mess, but it's a work in progress, right? So let's kind of start from scratch, and I won't subject you to this, but let me do this right. Okay, so we'll go to ChatGPT, we'll create a new chat. Here's a full transcript, and we'll paste in this big long transcript. And then, so I mean, you can do this, right? You get on Zoom, you meet with your guest, you save the recording, and then you run it through otter.ai or any other tool like that. So there's the podcast transcript, and then we'll see how this works in real time too, right? Here's the background information, and then we'll paste, and we go to their LinkedIn bio, and they also, when they scheduled the meeting, they gave us a bio, so we'll take this, and hopefully this will make sure that their name is spelled correctly. All right, now, and then I also have this other one of like, if they were a guest on my podcast multiple times, or I might go out and like grab YouTube transcripts of other things they said, but let's not get too crazy. And then here's the prompt chain, and we will go to, and I guess you see this a second time, right? Reinforces it. So we go add prompts in bulk, paste in the prompt chain, and then we let it do its thing. And it's interesting how it's different keywords, right? Meeting facilitation. But it still says unlocking productivity. So that is interesting. We'll see what the output is compared to the other one. We're going to abort. We're going to stop this right here. I don't like this at all. It is making it more about his bio than about what we talked about. So let me change this up. So let's see. Only use this information to ensure the spelling of their name, company name are correct. The podcast transcript. Let's see. Since the podcast transcript may have typos, the transcript of the podcast previously given should get priority. Do not let their bio change your decision making about the keywords or content. If you have understood the spelling of their name. Okay, so that was interesting, right? That his bio has a lot of different keywords, and it was like distracting it, and then it was giving us a really blah output if you notice what was flying past the screen. So attempt number 3, we'll go here, go to ChatGPT, We'll create a new chat. And hopefully we haven't run out of credits at this point, right? So here's the transcript. And there's that. And then here's the background information. So that way they spell his name correctly. Well, that's going. Okay, now we'll do the prompt chain. Add prompts in bulk. No, I don't like it. Well, procrastination trap. Okay. I just didn't like how the keywords more of the blah stuff, right? High performance team building. We want more productivity, but it looks like it's giving us the output that we want, right? It's talking about productivity, not high performance team building. So let's see what the end result is. All right, all done. Now let's see, the build test is, all right, his name was now spelled correctly. And the title is Proven Strategies to Overcome Procrastination. All right, I like it. And so what do we do next? Well, it gave us this blog post. It gave us this title. And it gave us a LinkedIn text. So what I will do is I will go to I have a Google document, and I've created a tab for each day here. And then I can right click and paste from Markdown. And that's actually something I want to also go on a tangent about. On Google Docs, go to Tools, Preferences, and make sure to check this Enable Markdown. And that way, when you paste in from ChatGPT, you don't have to like remove all the asterisks and things. If that's been a headache for you, then just saved you a ton of time, speaking of productivity. So now we paste that in, and then I'll paste in, here's the Canva title, and then here's the LinkedIn post. All right. And so now what we'll do is we'll go to canva.com. And then we'll get Pat's photo, Pat Sanahan, and I think we do have a photo of him from the podcast, but I think it's from this one, right? This is him on our podcast, and it's so we can do tools, size, large, and all right. Well, let's see what LinkedIn gives us, right? Pat Sanahan. Here we go. All right, and we open in a new tab. It's still kind of small, but let's see where that takes us. So I have this Canva document, and LinkedIn tells us to make the size 1920 by 1080. And then one of my favorite things about Canva, you can just click on Add Page, and then you can just like juggle all these images in one place. So we said this here is January 16th, Patrick Sanahan. And then we go Design. And based on this size here, it gives us all these choices. So I kind of like this one, the sales presentation. I don't want all the pages, just this. And then what we'll do is we're able to copy the image. Paste that in, Control V, and then I think we can just drag it. Well, that expands, can't be expanded. There we go. All right, that's close enough. And then we'll say beat procrastination and take action. And resize things. And then Pat Sanahan, and just delete the other stuff. All right, and then we can just do share, download, want the PNG, and then we just want the page we're working on. There we go. Oh no, uncheck all, and just that one. All right. So now we've downloaded that. And so we can schedule, I believe we can schedule this for January 16th. We go back to home, write article. We want this to be the newsletter. Then we will say upload the image and browse over here to downloads. And here's the January 16th. And then we want to do a couple of things as far as the customization. So we will, and so the reason why I have the Google document as kind of the intermediary is so I can like build up a whole month's worth, right? And then have the virtual assistant just schedule these or vice versa. Or have one virtual assistant do the building and another one do the posting. I haven't really gotten that advanced yet. So let's say, and I guess we'll keep all this in here, right? These are keywords that might work. So we've got this. And now the first thing you want to do is find where this first mentions Pat. So we first mention, and also sometimes like we'll bold important stuff, but we'll do at Pat Sanahan. Cool. And then what I next do as far as the formatting is I change these bolds things to heading. And I haven't figured out how to tell ChatGPT to make it where it's just like completely ready to go in LinkedIn. And then we add these little headings. And then maybe a few little minor tweaks. And then we see he has some links. So he has an Amazon page, and let's grab the link for that. Okay. So we'll say link. And then what I'll do is the whole point of this is to promote our podcast. And at the moment, on social media, I lean more towards YouTube videos instead of just linking back to my site. I feel like that gets me less limited, if that's a proper way of saying. So I grab the YouTube link from him and we put it near the top. So maybe like we have above the fold, you mention the hero of our story, and then we have this space and we say embed, and we paste the YouTube link there. And then, oh no. Okay, so it needs to go there instead. Okay, good old Control Z to redo. So now they come here, they can watch the YouTube video, they can read, and then if I had a lot more time, I would perhaps bold some things. And then something else that I like to do with these LinkedIn posts is when there's important quotes, not every time, if there's an important quote, I put it on its own line and I click this block quote. And all this idea here is just kind of break up the text and make it easier to read and to get someone to continue reading down the page. But I don't have a lot to change because the prompt chaining gave us something that is just kind of almost ready to go. And so I might like bold some random stuff. I would, for some reason, it made the paragraphs a little meatier than I'm used to. So I'm breaking some of those up. And I also, on my wish list is to get the output to like have more like this, more quotes on their own lines. But I mean, I guess in the sake of splitting it up, sometimes I'll just make the whole paragraph like that, right? So we have headlines, we have bolded text, we have links where it's important, and if I also had more time, I would link to these exact sources, but let's also not distract people too much, right? They can look up those sources. We don't have to link to every last thing. But if we were to, then let me try a couple of ways. Let me see if first Googling all of that gets me the answer, because Google has AI, it just might. Aha. So we'll just, can we get that link? So let's take that link and we'll link that. And then, so I was actually going to just paste it into a ChatGPT search, but National Institute of Health, Journal of Experimental Psychology. Oh no. Is it made up? Let's try this. In a new ChatGPT window, we'll do a search. See if it finds it. Journal of Experimental Psychology. Journal of Experimental. But where's the actual reference? Where's the Journal of Experimental Psychology link that references this? Hopefully it's not a hallucination. Task broken into smaller parts. Chunking information. That's a little scary. It didn't really give us the... So that's something to improve on the prompt, is like if it references some outside statistic link, because I don't know about that. So I guess that's part of our process, right? Part of what to tell the virtual assistant is to, if it mentions psychological science, see if it's real. If it is, then link to it. If it's not, then just remove the citation. So find me the link to this. Frontiers in Psychology. Boy. Little stressful. So maybe we just need to say that ChatGPT makes stuff up. James Clear. Just made up. And especially Mr. Pat Sanahan is an academic, so we definitely don't want to reference journals that do not exist, or that don't talk about that. Okay, and I think that's works for us, right? And so here's what we do, is we then go next, and we want to schedule this. So that's the post. Yeah. I haven't finished your post. Okay. So how do we... So can we not schedule a newsletter? Yeah, they're scheduled. Let's try this next. And then, because our prompt chain included the LinkedIn post at the bottom here, we've got that. And we paste this in, but of course it's not. Half of this is just formatting. And then where is Pat's name mentioned? Usually they put the name in there. From Pat Sanahan. Because, again, podcast guests love it if you are still working for them months or years later to promote them. All they have to do is just go and reshare, right? If someone, like a potential prospect, Googles his name or searches on LinkedIn, they find all this stuff, this guy knows what he's talking about. So now we've got the LinkedIn edition or the newsletter edition ready, and we click on schedule for later, and we schedule for January 16th. We'll do this at 4 in the morning. Click on next, schedule, and then, all right, view scheduled articles and repeat the process. And so this is my plan. And I know we kind of redid some stuff, but this is cutting edge. This is new and part of my process of having a daily newsletter and of scheduling perhaps a month in advance. That way I just have all this content going up, and these 300 newsletter subscribers, we'll see how many thousands it grows to in the coming weeks and months. But you need to be consistent in anything you do, right? In marketing and email promotion and social, you need to be somewhat regular, and scheduling in advance helps you do that. ChatGPT and having a workflow and having a team helps you do that. I'm Robert Plank from dfypodcast.com. Consider a LinkedIn newsletter. It's what I'm doing. But at the very least, if you're not at the point yet, consider a podcast. It gives you networking, it gives you content, and that gives you social content for any platform you have, right? A podcast gives you graphics for Instagram. It gives you reels for TikTok. It gives you videos for YouTube. It gives you text for X or Twitter, and it gives you all this extra LinkedIn stuff, right? It gives you newsletter or posts, and I highly recommend a LinkedIn newsletter. I'm really excited about it, and I wanted to share the good news with you, especially what's involved with prompt chaining and ChatGPT. It incrementally gets better. It seems like every month. We've come a long way from those early days when you could just instantly tell. Now it's less and less able to tell. You kind of can, especially when there's so much written, but if someone can still get some answers, can still get some information, encouragement, reassurance, new insights, ahas, then it has done its job. And heck, so many times I'll feed in a big long podcast and tell ChatGPT to summarize it for me, and that's what we are doing here. Of course, AI and ChatGPT can generate garbage if you don't use it properly, but by using this prompt chain thing, which is the ChatGPTQ Chrome extension, that's Queue, right? Like a line of people, like a queue, and you can upgrade to the Pro version, use prompt chains. I believe that other AIs or other tools like Poe allow you to have prompt chains, and heck, maybe ChatGPT will have that built in the future. I know that when I first started using ChatGPT, I loved another plugin that allowed me to upload files in little chunks, and then one day ChatGPT said, hey, it's built in. You just click on a paperclip icon and upload a big old file. So maybe they will get it caught up, but in the meantime, Robert Plank, dfypodcast.com. Have a podcast, post to social, post to YouTube, use ChatGPT, use Canva, tag your guests, consider prompt chaining, and I'll see you in the next video. Like and subscribe. Bye for now.